The phone rang at 2:17 a.m. It was the kind of sound that does not simply wake you. It pierces through sleep, through dreams, through the fragile illusion that life is still intact. Daniel Harper reached for the phone without opening his eyes, already sensing that whatever waited on the other end would divide his life into a before and an after. "Mr. Harper?" "Yes." His voice was hoarse, unfinished. "This is Mercy General Hospital." There was a pause, brief, professional, practiced. A pause designed to soften words that could never be softened. "I'm sorry to tell you that your wife, Anna Harper, was brought in after a collision on Route 9. The injuries were severe. We did everything we could." Daniel sat up slowly, the room dim and unfamiliar, as though he had awakened in someone else's life. "I don't understand," he said. "She was supposed to be home by 9. "I'm very sorry," the voice repeated. The call ended. Or perhaps Daniel ended it. He would never be certain. He sat on the edge of the bed, phone still in his hand, listening to the hollow ringing in his ears. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, offensively. Somewhere down the hall, the refrigerator hummed. Life, apparently, had not received the memo. Anna was gone. The words refused to make sense. They hovered near him, but would not land, like a language he did not speak. He stood, staggered toward the window, and pulled the curtain aside. The street was empty. A streetlight flickered. Snow had begun to fall, slow, quiet, indifferent flakes, settling onto windshields and sidewalks. Anna loved snow. The thought hit him with a force that bent him forward. His hand pressed against the glass as if he could push through it, step back into yesterday, stop her from leaving the house, ask her to take another route, ask God, just this once, to intervene. God. The name rose instinctively, then stopped halfway, lodged in his throat like a foreign object. Daniel had been a man of faith once, not loudly, not dramatically, but sincerely. He prayed before meals. He attended church most Sundays. He believed in God the way one believes in gravity, unseen, unquestioned, simply there. But now, standing alone in the dark, faith felt like a language he no longer knew how to speak. He drove to the hospital in silence. No radio, no prayer, just the sound of tires on cold pavement and his own breathing, shallow and uneven. At Mercy General, a nurse led him down a corridor painted in calming colors that did nothing to calm him. A doctor spoke in careful sentences. Forms were signed, condolences offered. Then he saw her. Anna lay still beneath a thin sheet, her dark hair brushed neatly away from her face. She looked peaceful, almost asleep, as though she might wake if he said her name. "Anna," he whispered. Nothing. He reached for her hand. It was cold. Something inside him broke, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely, like a support beam giving way inside a structure that would never again be stable. "I was supposed to protect you," he murmured. "I was supposed to get you home." The words were useless. They echoed briefly, then vanished into the sterile room. Later, much later, Daniel would remember this moment, not for what he felt, but for what he did not feel. He did not pray. The days that followed blurred into a sequence of rituals and faces. Flowers arrived, cards, meals, dropped off by well-meaning church members who spoke softly and avoided eye contact. The funeral was held on a grey Thursday afternoon. Daniel stood at the front of the church, staring at the closed casket. The pastor spoke of eternal hope, of resurrection, of a God who gathers his children into everlasting arms. Daniel listened without hearing. People wept. He did not. When it was over, when the sanctuary emptied and silence returned, Daniel remained seated in the front pew, his hands folded loosely in his lap. "Lord," the pastor said gently, touching his shoulder, "you don't have to stay alone." Daniel looked up, eyes dry, expression distant. "I already am," he replied. That night, back in the house they had shared for 11 years, Daniel walked from room to room like a stranger. Anna's mug sat beside the sink. Her coat still hung by the door. A half-finished book rested on the nightstand, a bookmark placed carefully as though she fully intended to return. Daniel sat on the bed and stared at the empty pillow. For the first time since the phone call, the weight of it all pressed down on him fully. He bent forward, elbows on knees, face in his hands. "If you're there," he whispered into the quiet, "I need you to explain this." The silence answered. He waited. Nothing. That night, Daniel Harper went to bed a grieving man. He woke up something else entirely. 3 months later, Daniel stopped attending church. No announcement, no confrontation. He simply didn't go. On Sundays, he stayed in bed longer than usual, staring at the ceiling as the sunlight crept slowly across it. Sometimes he went for long drives. Sometimes he sat at the kitchen table, coffee growing cold, lost in memories he did not invite but could not stop. People noticed, of course. "Grief takes time," they said. "God understands," they assured him. "Just don't isolate yourself." Daniel nodded politely. He learned how to perform concern, how to say the right things without meaning any of them. At work, he functioned well enough. He was an accountant. Numbers behaved predictably, obeyed rules, made sense. Numbers did not die on icy roads without warning. His colleagues avoided personal questions. They spoke to him with careful kindness, as one might approach a wounded animal. Evenings were the hardest. The house grew quiet after sunset in a way that felt unnatural, like a held breath that never released. Daniel cooked less. He ate standing up, when he ate at all. The television stayed on for background noise, not entertainment. Prayer became impossible. At first, he tried. He would sit on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, posture familiar. But the words would not come. When they did, they felt hollow. Phrases learned long ago, now stripped of meaning. He stopped midway more than once, overcome by a sense of embarrassment, as though speaking to an empty room. Eventually, he stopped trying. One evening, while sorting through paperwork, Daniel opened a drawer he had avoided since the funeral. Inside lay Anna's journal. His hand hovered over it. He had promised himself he would not read it, not yet. Perhaps not ever. It felt like trespassing into something sacred, but that night, something compelled him. He sat at the dining table and opened the first page. Anna's handwriting was familiar, neat, slightly slanted, purposeful. "God, today I'm tired," the first entry read, "but I trust you're working even when I can't see it." Daniel swallowed hard. Page after page revealed thoughts she had never spoken aloud, fears, hopes, prayers for their future, prayers for him. One entry, dated just 2 weeks before the accident, made his breath catch. "I'm worried about Daniel," she had written. "He carries so much responsibility quietly. I pray he never feels alone, even if I can't always be there to say it." Daniel closed the journal abruptly. Anger rose, sudden, hot, unexpected. "You knew," he said aloud to the empty house. "You knew I'd be alone." His hands shook. "If you're so good," he continued, voice rising, "if you answer prayers, why didn't you answer hers?" The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswered. He waited, some part of him still hoping for something, anything. Nothing came. That night, Daniel dreamed of Anna for the first time. She stood at the edge of a field, sunlight behind her, face turned toward him. She did not speak. She only watched him with an expression he could not interpret. Sadness, perhaps, or understanding. He tried to move toward her, but his feet would not obey. When he woke, his pillow was wet with tears he did not remember shedding. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel's faith did not disappear overnight. It eroded slowly, like stone worn smooth by relentless water. He stopped reading scripture. He stopped listening to worship music. He stopped using words like blessing and purpose. One evening, standing in the garage, he noticed a small wooden cross hanging near the workbench, something Anna had placed there years earlier. Without thinking, he took it down and placed it in a box. He did not throw it away, but he could not look at it either. That was the strange thing about his relationship with God now. It was not hatred. It was disappointment, a deeper, more dangerous thing. Late one night, unable to sleep, Daniel sat on the living room floor, back against the couch, knees drawn to his chest. "If you're real," he whispered, voice barely audible, "then you're not who I thought you were." His chest tightened. "And if you're not real," he continued, "then at least the silence makes sense." The words frightened him, not because they felt rebellious, but because they felt honest. For the first time in his life, Daniel Harper allowed himself to imagine a world without God. It felt colder, but it also felt simpler. He did not know then that this quiet surrender, this subtle turning away, was only the beginning. Because buried beneath his grief, beneath his anger and silence, lay a truth he had never spoken aloud, a truth that would soon refuse to remain hidden. And when it surfaced, it would challenge not only his faith, but everything he believed about guilt, forgiveness, and grace. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Daniel noticed it because it did not belong with the rest of the mail. No return address, no logo, no typed label, just his name written carefully in blue ink, each letter deliberate, almost hesitant. Daniel Harper. He stood at the kitchen counter, the envelope resting between unpaid bills and a grocery flyer. For reasons he could not explain, his chest tightened. He told himself it was nothing, a distant relative, an old acquaintance, yet his hand lingered longer than necessary before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no signature, only words. "I don't know if you'll forgive me for writing this. I don't even know if you should. But the truth has been sitting in my chest for years, and after what happened, I can't keep carrying it." Daniel's breath caught. He read on. "Anna knew." The room seemed to tilt. He read the line again, slower this time, as though the words might rearrange themselves into something less devastating. Anna knew. Knew what? His fingers tightened around the paper. Consists repeated, avoid formatting glitch. She knew what happened that summer. She knew the choice you made. And she believed, truly believed, that silence would not be the end of the story. Daniel dropped into the nearest chair. The truth he had buried for more than a decade rose abruptly, violently, demanding air. The summer before he met Anna, the night he never spoke of, the decision that altered more lives than he allowed himself to remember. The letter continued. "I'm not writing to accuse you. I'm writing because I'm tired of pretending the past stayed buried. It didn't. It grew roots, and now it's touching all of us." Daniel folded the letter slowly, hands trembling. "No," he whispered. He had done everything right since then, built a stable life, married a good woman, served at church, paid his debts, loved faithfully. He had earned distance from that night, hadn't he? The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Finally, at the bottom of the page, a name. Michael Reyes. Daniel closed his eyes. Michael, the boy who had trusted him, the boy he had failed. He did not sleep that night. The letter lay on the coffee table, untouched, as though it might contaminate the room. Daniel paced from window to window, replaying memories he had carefully edited for years. He had been 24, newly promoted, ambitious, certain of his own intelligence. Michael had been 19, an intern, eager, desperate to prove himself. They had been working late, a deadline missed, a report altered, a mistake made. Daniel had known the numbers were wrong. He had also known that admitting it would cost him everything he had worked for. So he let the blame fall where it landed. On Michael, the investigation had been swift, the consequences devastating. Michael was dismissed quietly. The firm issued apologies. The incident faded. Daniel was promoted again within the year. He told himself it was unfortunate, unfair perhaps, but not unforgivable. Life went on, except it hadn't. According to the letter, Anna had known. Daniel pressed his palms against his eyes until stars burst behind them. How? He murmured. Had she found out before they married? After? Had she carried that knowledge silently, praying for a reckoning that never came? A sharp, unexpected wave of shame washed over him. Not because of what he had done, but because Anna had believed he could face it. And he never had. By morning, his decision was made. He would not respond. He would not reopen the past. Some things, he told himself, were better left buried. Yet as he prepared for work, buttoning his shirt with mechanical precision, a thought would not leave him. If God had been silent in his grief, perhaps this letter was not. The idea unsettled him deeply. Daniel avoided the letter for 6 days. He went to work, balanced accounts, attended meetings, answered emails, smiled when necessary. But everything felt heavier, as though gravity had increased without warning. On the 7th night, he broke. He sat on the floor of the bedroom, back against the bed, Anna's journal open in his lap. He did not remember choosing it. His hands had moved on their own. He flipped through pages until one entry stopped him. The date was 3 months before her death. Lord, Anna had written, Daniel is carrying something he doesn't know how to lay down. I can feel it when he goes quiet. I don't ask him because I don't want to force what must be surrendered freely. But you see it. You know. Please don't let him confuse silence with peace. Daniel's chest tightened painfully. She had known, not the details perhaps, but the weight, and she had prayed for him. The realization struck him with a strange mixture of comfort and condemnation. Anna had believed God was working even when nothing seemed to change. Daniel had mistaken delay for approval. The house felt unbearably quiet. For the first time in months, Daniel knelt. The movement surprised him. His knees hit the carpet awkwardly, unused to the posture. He bowed his head. The words would not come. Minutes passed. Finally, a single sentence escaped his lips, broken and unsure. I don't know how to talk to you anymore. His voice cracked. And I don't know if you want to hear me. Silence answered. But this time, it felt different. Not empty. Waiting. Daniel stayed there, kneeling, long after discomfort set in. Memories surfaced uninvited. Michael's face the day he was dismissed, pale and stunned. The way Daniel had avoided his eyes, the relief he had felt when it was over. He had called it survival. Now it looked disturbingly like cowardice. The following afternoon, Daniel drove across town to an address he had memorized years ago and hoped never to revisit. The building was older than he remembered, brick darkened by time and neglect. A small sign near the door read, Reyes Auto and Body. He sat in the car, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. I don't have to do this, he told himself. But another thought followed, quieter, persistent. You already are. He stepped out of the car. Inside, the smell of oil and metal filled the air. A man stood beneath a raised vehicle, wiping his hands with a rag. He looked up. For a moment, neither spoke. Michael Reyes had aged. Lines marked his face now. His hair showed threads of gray. But his eyes, Daniel recognized them instantly. Recognition flashed across Michael's face, followed by something harder. Daniel Harper, Michael said flatly. Daniel swallowed. "I got your letter." Michael nodded once. "I wondered if you would." Silence stretched between them, thick with years of unspoken truth. "I didn't come to defend myself," Daniel said finally. "I'm not even sure why I came." Michael studied him, expression unreadable. "Maybe," he said slowly, "because pretending didn't work." The words landed with unexpected force. Daniel felt something shift. Not relief, not resolution, but the beginning of exposure. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. The words felt small. Michael's jaw tightened. "Sorry doesn't give back years," he replied. "It doesn't undo nights, wondering if I was as incompetent as they said. It doesn't erase the way my parents looked at me after that." Daniel nodded. "I know." Michael shook his head. "No, you don't." Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, there was nothing to argue. "I don't expect forgiveness," Daniel said quietly. "I just couldn't keep pretending it never happened." Michael turned away, setting the rag down carefully. "Neither could I," he said. "That's why I wrote." They stood there, two men bound by a past neither could rewrite. Outside, the sky darkened with approaching rain. Daniel felt something unfamiliar stirring beneath his guilt. Not absolution, not peace, but the sharp ache of truth finally allowed into the open. He did not yet know what it would cost him, only that the silence he had lived in for years was no longer an option. And that, whether he was ready or not, the path forward would demand more than regret. It would demand surrender. The rain began as Daniel drove home. It started gently, a light tapping on the windshield, then intensified until the wipers struggled to keep pace. The world beyond the glass blurred, lights stretching into distorted lines of red and white. It felt appropriate. Inside him, nothing was clear anymore. Michael's words echoed relentlessly, not loud, not angry, but weighted with a truth Daniel had never allowed himself to hear fully. "Sorry doesn't give back years." The sentence repeated itself with merciless precision. When Daniel reached the house, he sat in the car long after the engine stopped, hands resting limply on the wheel. The familiar structure before him no longer felt like shelter. It felt like a witness. Inside, the house was dark. He did not turn on the lights. He moved through the rooms slowly, almost reverently, as though the walls themselves were listening. In the living room, he stopped before a framed photograph on the bookshelf. Himself and Anna on a hiking trail years earlier. Her laughter caught mid-motion, his arms slung easily around her shoulders. "You believed in me," he whispered. The realization cut deeper than accusation. She had believed not because he was flawless, but because she trusted God's work in him, work he had resisted for years. Daniel sat on the couch and pressed his face into his hands. His shoulders began to shake. The sobs came suddenly, violently, as though a dam long neglected had finally given way. "I didn't deserve you," he said through broken breath. "I didn't deserve any of it." For the first time since Anna's death, Daniel did not attempt to control the grief. He let it come, raw, unfiltered, unmanageable, and beneath it another emotion surfaced: fear. Because he knew something now that he had refused to know before. Truth, once uncovered, does not ask politely before rearranging a life. The following days brought no peace. Daniel returned to work, but concentration eluded him. Numbers blurred. Familiar tasks took twice as long. More than once his supervisor asked if he was feeling well. "I'm fine," Daniel replied automatically. He was not. At night, sleep came in fragments. Dreams returned. Fragmented scenes of closed doors, unanswered questions, Anna standing just beyond reach. And beneath it all, a question pressed insistently against his conscience. What does repentance look like now? Apologies had been spoken. Regret had been acknowledged. Yet something remained unfinished, unresolved. One evening, as Daniel sat at the kitchen table, he opened his laptop and searched for the firm where the incident had occurred. The company still existed, larger now, more influential. He stared at the screen, pulse quickening. If he told the truth, fully, publicly, it would not be without consequence. His reputation would be dismantled, his career jeopardized, his carefully constructed image undone. He thought of Michael's life altered by a single decision made in fear. He closed the laptop. Later that night, Daniel found himself standing in the garage, staring at the box where he had placed the wooden cross months earlier. He opened it. The cross was small, worn smooth at the edges, ordinary. He held it in his palm, feeling its weight. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "I don't know how to fix what I broke." He waited. The silence remained, but it no longer felt indifferent. A memory surfaced unbidden, a verse Anna had quoted once, casually, over dinner. "The truth will set you free." At the time, he had nodded politely. Now, the words felt heavier. Freedom, he realized, was not synonymous with comfort. Sunday came quietly. Daniel woke early, before the alarm, before the sun. The house was still, wrapped in that fragile stillness that exists only in early morning. For the first time in months, he dressed with intention. When he stepped into the church building, the scent of polished wood and old hymnals met him like a memory. Familiar faces turned, surprised but gentle. Some smiled, some nodded. No one asked questions. Daniel slid into a pew near the back, his heart pounding. The service unfolded as it always had. Songs, announcements, prayers. But Daniel experienced it differently now. Each word seemed heavier, charged with meaning he had previously ignored. When the congregation stood to sing, Daniel remained seated. He could not yet join in. The pastor spoke that morning about confession, not dramatic public confessions, but the quiet, costly act of truth-telling before God. "Grace," the pastor said, "does not deny reality. It meets us inside it." Daniel's chest tightened. The words felt uncomfortably precise. As the service ended, people filtered out slowly. Daniel remained seated, staring at the cross at the front of the sanctuary. Eventually, the room emptied. He did not know how long he sat there. Minutes, perhaps longer. Finally, he bowed his head. This time, the prayer did not begin with explanations or questions. It began with truth. "I did it," he whispered. "I chose myself over someone else's life. I let another man carry what was mine to bear." The words spilled out, halting, uneven but honest. "I told myself it was survival. I told myself it didn't matter anymore. I was wrong." His hands clenched tightly. "I don't know if you can use what's left of me," he continued. "I don't know if forgiveness is still possible." His voice broke. "But I can't keep living like this." The silence that followed was long, not empty, heavy. Daniel expected nothing, no warmth, no reassurance, no sudden peace. Instead, what came was conviction, clear, steady, unyielding, not condemnation, direction. "Tell the truth." The instruction did not arrive as a voice, nor as a dramatic sensation. It was quieter than that, simpler, but unmistakable. Daniel lifted his head slowly. His heart pounded with fear. He understood now that obedience would cost him far more than guilt ever had. That afternoon, Daniel wrote an email. He rewrote it 3 times before sending it. He addressed it to the firm's ethics committee and included documentation, records, timelines, explanations. He did not excuse himself. He did not minimize the impact. He signed his name. When he clicked send, his hands trembled violently. The waiting began. Days passed, then weeks. The response, when it came, was formal and brief. An investigation would be reopened. Daniel was placed on administrative leave from his current position pending review. Whispers followed, questions, concerned looks. Friends reached out, confused. Daniel answered honestly when asked. Some reacted with understanding, others with distance. The loss of reputation hurt more than he expected. The loss of control hurt even more. One evening, after receiving a particularly cold message from a former colleague, Daniel sat alone in the living room, the weight of it all pressing down hard. "What if I did this too late?" he asked the quiet. "What if obedience doesn't change anything?" The question lingered unanswered, but beneath it something else stirred, a fragile, unfamiliar sense of alignment. For the first time in years, his inner life matched his outer actions. The cost was high, the silence long, but deep within it, a quiet certainty began to take shape. He was no longer running, and though restoration had not yet come, the path toward it, narrow, uncomfortable, honest, had finally begun. The official letter arrived on a Friday afternoon. Daniel knew what it was before he opened it. The envelope bore the logo of his firm, embossed and impersonal. He stood at the kitchen counter, the letter unopened, his reflection faintly visible in the darkened window. For a moment, he considered leaving it there, letting it sit, letting uncertainty stretch a little longer, but avoidance had already taken enough from him. He opened it. The language was measured, careful, legal. The investigation confirmed misconduct in a prior position. Though the events were dated, the ethical breach was considered severe. His employment was terminated effective immediately. Daniel folded the letter slowly. He felt no shock, only a deep, quiet finality. Later that evening, he called Michael. They had spoken twice since their meeting at the garage. Brief conversations, cautious but honest. Not friendly, not hostile. Something unfinished hovering between them. "It happened," Daniel said simply. Michael was silent for a moment. "I figured it might. I wanted you to hear it from me." Another pause. "That doesn't make things right," Michael said. "But it matters." Daniel nodded, though Michael could not see him. "I know." After the call ended, Daniel sat alone in the darkened living room. The house felt different now, not because Anna was gone, but because the life he had built to protect himself had finally collapsed. He felt stripped, exposed, and strangely, lighter. The following weeks were among the hardest Daniel had ever known. Job interviews ended politely but went nowhere. Word traveled quickly in professional circles. His savings began to thin. Invitations stopped coming. Church members treated him kindly but cautiously. Some avoided the subject altogether. Others asked questions he answered without embellishment. There were moments, late at night usually, when regret returned with renewed force. "You've ruined everything," a voice whispered inside him. "You should have stayed quiet." On one such night, Daniel found himself on the floor again, back against the couch, the same posture he had taken months earlier when faith seemed impossible. Only now, the posture felt intentional. "I did what you asked," he said quietly. "I told the truth." His voice wavered. "But I don't know what comes next." The answer did not come as resolution. It came as presence. Not something he could see or hear, but something he felt. A steadiness beneath the chaos, a sense that he was not abandoned to the consequences alone. The next morning, Daniel received an email from Michael. "I've been thinking. If you're willing, I'd like to talk. Not about the past, about what comes after." Daniel stared at the message for a long time before replying, "I'm willing." They met at a small cafe near the auto shop. The atmosphere was awkward at first, two men navigating ground neither fully trusted yet. Michael spoke first. "I lost a lot after that happened," he said, staring into his coffee. "Confidence, direction, time." Daniel listened, resisting the urge to explain. "But I also learned things," Michael continued, "about resilience, About rebuilding from nothing. He looked up then. I'm not ready to forgive you. Daniel nodded. I understand. But, Michael added, I don't want to be defined by what you did anymore. The words struck Daniel unexpectedly. Michael leaned back. I don't know if that's forgiveness yet. Maybe it's just me choosing not to let the past decide the rest of my life. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Thank you, he said quietly. Michael shook his head. Don't thank me. Just don't waste what it cost you to tell the truth. They parted without ceremony, but something fundamental had shifted. Forgiveness, Daniel realized, was not a single moment. It was a process, often incomplete, sometimes asymmetrical. And sometimes the first step was simply choosing not to demand it. Winter deepened. Snow settled heavily on rooftops and sidewalks, muting the city in white stillness. Daniel took temporary work, bookkeeping for a small non-profit, repairs around the church building, odd jobs offered quietly by those who understood without needing details. His life had grown smaller, but it had also grown quieter. One afternoon, while sorting old files at the non-profit office, Daniel came across a familiar name, Michael Reyes. The non-profit partnered with a vocational training program, one that Michael had helped establish for young adults aging out of foster care. Daniel stared at the screen, surprised. Later that week, he attended one of the program's workshops. He did not announce himself. He sat quietly at the back, observing. Michael stood at the front of the room, speaking to a group of young men and women with a calm authority that came from lived experience. Failure doesn't get the final word, Michael said, but neither does denial. You face what happened, then you decide who you'll be next. Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. After the session, Michael approached him. You didn't have to come, he said. I wanted to see, Daniel replied. What you built. Michael nodded. It wasn't easy. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Michael spoke again, more quietly. I've been thinking about Anna. Daniel looked at him, surprised. She reached out to me once, Michael said. Years ago. She didn't tell me what to do. She just asked how I was. Listened. Daniel's breath caught. She believed people weren't finished stories, Michael continued, even when they thought they were. Daniel swallowed hard. She believed that about me too. Michael nodded. I know. They stood there, two men connected not only by harm, but now by the quiet influence of a woman who had believed in grace long before either of them understood its cost. That night, Daniel returned home and opened Anna's journal again. This time, he read it slowly, deliberately. Near the back, he found an entry written just days before her death. If Daniel ever reads this, she had written, I hope he knows that courage isn't never failing. It's telling the truth when it would be easier not to. God doesn't waste surrendered hearts. Daniel closed the journal and pressed it to his chest. For the first time since the accident, he did not feel crushed by grief. He felt accompanied. The restoration he had imagined, clear, triumphant, immediate, had not come. Instead, something quieter had arrived. Integrity, humility, a faith no longer based on outcomes, but on obedience. Daniel knelt beside the bed, the familiar posture now worn into muscle memory. Thank you, he whispered, not for fixing everything. He paused, but for not leaving. Outside, snow fell steadily, covering the ground in a clean, unbroken layer, not erasing what lay beneath it, but giving it time to heal. Spring arrived without ceremony. The snow retreated slowly, unevenly, revealing patches of earth that looked bruised but alive. Daniel noticed the change on a morning walk, buds forming stubbornly on trees that had seemed dead just weeks earlier. He had learned not to rush meaning into seasons. Some transformations announced themselves loudly. Others happened quietly, almost apologetically, as if afraid of being noticed. Daniel's life had settled into a rhythm that would have once frightened him. Fewer appointments, less certainty, more dependence. He continued working part-time with the non-profit, eventually becoming indispensable, not because of his credentials, but because of his consistency. He showed up early, stayed late, listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, the director called him into her office. "We have a full-time opening," she said. "It doesn't pay what you used to make." Daniel smiled faintly. "I know. But it matters," she continued. "What you do here matters." He accepted without hesitation. That evening, Daniel visited Anna's grave for the first time in months. He brought no flowers, only himself. The cemetery was quiet, the air cool but gentle. He stood before the stone, reading her name, her dates, markers that still felt insufficient to describe a life. "I wish you were here," he said softly. He paused, listening to the wind move through nearby trees. "But I think," he continued, "you already are, in the ways that count." He sat down on the grass, no longer afraid of the memories that surfaced. "I was angry," he admitted, "at God, at you, at myself." His voice wavered. "I thought faith meant protection, that if I did enough right things, nothing would fall apart." He took a slow breath. "I was wrong." Daniel closed his eyes. "Faith," he said, "is staying when it does." He did not ask questions that day. He did not demand answers. He simply stayed. As he rose to leave, he noticed something he had not seen before, a small engraving beneath Anna's name, added later, "A life poured out in love." The words undid him. A few weeks later, Daniel received another message from Michael. This one was different. "We're expanding the program. I could use someone who understands systems and consequences. Interested?" Daniel stared at the screen, heart pounding. They met that evening. Michael spoke plainly. "I won't pretend everything's resolved, but I trust who you're becoming." The words carried more weight than forgiveness would have. "I don't deserve that trust," Daniel said. Michael nodded. "None of us deserve the chances that matter most." They shook hands, not as a symbolic gesture, but as a quiet agreement to walk forward honestly. That night, Daniel returned home exhausted. He sat at the kitchen table, the same place where grief had once hollowed him out, and bowed his head. This time, prayer came naturally. Not polished, not eloquent, just true. "Thank you," he said, "for second chances that don't erase the past, but redeem it." Years later, Daniel would struggle to explain exactly when restoration happened. There was no single moment, no dramatic reversal, just 1,000 small obediences stitched together by grace. The vocational program flourished. Young men and women passed through its doors carrying stories that echoed Daniel's own. Mistakes made, futures uncertain, hope tentative but real. Daniel listened to them with patience earned through pain. He never hid his past. When asked, he told the truth. "I failed," he would say, "and I learned that confession doesn't destroy a life. Avoidance does." On a warm autumn evening, Daniel stood at the back of a small auditorium as one of the program's graduates spoke. Michael sat beside him. "I used to think my worst moment defined me," the young man said from the stage. "But someone believed my story wasn't over." Daniel felt tears gather, not of sorrow but of recognition. Later, as they walked out together, Michael spoke quietly. "You know," he said, "I think forgiveness finally happened without me noticing." Daniel smiled. "I think that's how it usually does." That night, Daniel returned home to a house no longer filled with echoes. It still held Anna's memory, but now without the sharpness of regret. He stood by the window, watching the lights flicker on along the street. "I understand now," he whispered into the quiet. "You didn't abandon me in the silence." He paused. "You met me in it." Daniel knelt, not because he was broken beyond repair, but because humility had become home. "I don't know what tomorrow holds," he said, "but I trust you with it." The peace that followed was not overwhelming. It was steady, earned, real. And as Daniel rose, he carried with him a truth shaped by loss, repentance, and grace. God does not rush redemption. He walks it out, patiently, faithfully, with those willing to tell the truth and keep walking. The night settled gently around the house, and for the first time in a very long while, Daniel Harper slept in silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of peace.